to my studio space here. My name is Nicolaas. I'm an artist originally from the Netherlands. I came here in 2017 to study at the RCA, which was a special time. I met my husband here and decided to stay, and now continue my art practice here in London. I'm an installation artist. I make sculptures that I then turn into installations often, or put them in certain configurations. And I have this way of working where I always end up in making three-dimensional things, very diverse in what materials I use, although I would actually like to make more two-dimensional work, but that's just not happening. A very important or very often reoccurring material that I work with is the flocking stuff that you see here next to me, which is this soft, hairy, weird stuff that is basically small acrylic fibers attached to a surface that is glued. And it creates this tactile, weird, lively touch to it. I was aiming to create a DIY scene. I had this workbench and there were like paint cans in that original work. And I always grew up with my father making, he was always building in the house, like the house has always been one big DIY scene. And I think I just know that like doors and stuff, if you're gonna construct a house or build things, they come loose because you need to paint the things. Like for me, the DIY scene just makes sense to have a door or a windowsill, or just like the real construction part of a home, you know, breaking down walls, breaking down doors. That's kind of where the door came from. And yeah, I agree, it's a very classical, old-fashioned door. And that's just me, I think, emphasizing like this is a door, you know. When I think of a door, I just think of this kind of ridiculous, spooky old man door, which I just find very interesting. And there is other things I can show you about the flocking. The process itself is quite interesting. My little desk space. Well, this is where I usually sit to do my thinking and brainstorming about the things I'm going to do. And as a sculptor, I've been starting to sort of manipulate a lot of the objects that I found interesting or I saw around me, and try to sort of defamiliarize them, try to sort of see how I could make what is most ordinary into something into something magical, let's say, something unknown or alien to ourselves. And a very sort of interesting material that quickly has a sort of alienating effect if you apply to stuff is this flocking stuff that I mentioned, which is, for example, on this object here that, I don't know if you can see it, is a fetus, but it's covered in little fibers, or like this one here, which give it a sort of lifelike sensation. And I like the idea. These are sort of very natural living objects that have an organic kind of shape. I think I am trying at the moment to sort of see if I am capable of making two-dimensional works. And that's new to me because I've always stayed very far away from painting or even drawing. Like I've never really given it a serious attempt because I'm very naturally interested in making three-dimensional things. I just feel like when I'm dreaming of ideas or I have inspiration, it's very often a very three-dimensional, real material configuration I'm thinking of, because that's just where my obsession lies. Whereas this idea of working two-dimensional, it's maybe easier to sell because it can hang above a sofa and it's easier to store. So that's maybe secretly also a bit of a drive behind this venture into two-dimensional. Maybe I can talk a bit about the work I've shown at the exhibition Home Away from Home. Turn it on. I think this light does very well relate to the idea of home, maybe not even for me particularly, but to anyone, because there is sort of this childlike memories captured in it, in the marshmallows, and maybe also the weird orange light that sort of reminds of just a children's bedroom or something, if you see it in that context. I mean, I call it this lamp pervy or perverted, which is of course a bit of a weird word. It has all these weird elements together, like this sort of like a weird, I mean, very soft, friendly marshmallow world, but it's also like this sort of orange light that is actually quite of like danger. Or like the orange light, it's absolutely not functional this way. You would never see it in the buildings that I've been living in, government buildings or primary schools. So that makes you wonder, like, well, this is a very sort of purely emotional light then, that is about a living space or whatever kind of space, could be a nightmare as well, but it's not part of some sort of functional reality. It's very sort of intimate, and this light particular, and other lights as well, I guess, have this quality of being very atmospheric. And I think the home is all about atmosphere, like it's about a feeling and a sensation of what's in the air, how you feel at home. It's comfort that is, you know, it's hard to define what it is exactly, but it's a combination of things that makes the atmosphere of feeling at home. If you want me sniffing flowers. And that's kind of cool that you can just mix it as if it is paint. No, this is just the cheapest IKEA lamp, £10.